The modern legendary American comic book creator Stan Lee died on November 12, 2018. He provided us with amazing heroes turned into mythos such as Spider-Man. He lived a great life and touched the hearts and minds of millions of people around the globe. Accomplishments aside, this video is actually a trap to vaguely talk about technological determinism. Enter Armie Hammer. He is an actor. Currently, at the time of watching this video, he is 32. Age is related to this marginally, I promise. This is what he tweeted after the fall of the aforementioned legend. So touched by all of the celebrities posting pictures of themselves with Stan Lee, no better way to commemorate an absolute legend than putting up a picture of yourself. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that he's being sarcastic. Someone responds, "What else are you supposed to do when someone dies, Armie?" Armie says, "If your answer is post a selfie, then I think we need a cultural revamp across the board." And I'm going to include this other response, which is kind of funny. "Kudos to you for finding the strength at a time like this to school everyone on the proper way to grieve or remember someone who impacted their life." Now, I don't normally approve of sarcasm with sarcasm, but who cares? I mean, fighting fire with fire here. It's Twitter. I'm not a judge. I don't have a wig on or a robe. I don't normally approve of it. I think it's cheap. I think sarcasm is the McDonald's of humor. Nothing wrong with McDonald's at like 2 a.m., but it's not something you should do for all your meals. Tangents aside, I really believe, in my opinion, that Armie Hammer is out of his depth in what he is implying. It's a quick throwaway tweet to say we need a cultural revamp, but it got 1,200 likes, and his first tweet got over 21,000 likes, not including the weird margin of people liking tweets to save them for some reason. People are kind of agreeing with him. At least there are some people that are agreeing with him. And in my opinion, it's a little too many people are quick to agree with this kind of mentality. The behavior Armie Hammer is so annoyed with has been occurring for millennias on top of millennias. Almost at least 5,000 years. Gonna go nuts here. Gonna shoot as far as back as 5,000 years. Normally I'd say 10,000, but I'm really confident with my 5,000 mark here. Humans have been celebrating the deaths of their loved ones and of people in high esteem for a long time in recorded history. What do you do at your classic Catholic funeral? You go up there, the priest says some few words, a reference to the Bible here and there, and then maybe a family member or friend comes up and they say, "Hey, how I remember John Doe is, or Jane Doe, is one time we did X, Y, and Z, and that's why I feel ABC about them." I bring the ancient history up to illustrate how reductive this notion of kids on their phones these days, how reductive that mentality is. In order to illustrate that I'm not just being ageist about this, Armie Hammer's only 32. Tom Holland, who is less than 32, posted about it. And Robert Downey Jr., who is 53 years old, posted about it with a selfie. Personally, it's very clear that this is just the modern eulogy. They have a platform to millions, and they get to express their grievance to their fans and to fans of Stan Lee. I don't think this requires a cultural revamp across the board, because this is just something humans have been doing for thousands of years, and it's working out fine. It's kind of dumb to criticize the way someone's grieving if they're not hurting someone else and they aren't necessarily hurting themselves. Of course they're going to post a picture with Stan, because that's the equivalent of them saying, "Oh, we had this story one time." It's just a different way to grieve, and it's not a new form of human behavior. Falling into determinism is really easy. It's super easy to be cynical and assume that all of society is technology will determine all of the social structure and cultural values that any new technology introduces. Technology can change society, but ultimately, it's a tool. Tools are dependent on the user. I mean, a hammer can be used to put in a nail to hang up a beautiful work of art, or bash someone's skull in. The hammer isn't inherently violent, it's just depend on the use. This may be a huge leap based off some actor's tweet, but I think way too many people were quick to retweet that in agreeance and like it in agreeance. I just see these tweets as a modern eulogy. A speech or a piece of writing that praises someone or something highly, typically someone who has just died. Like I said, actor Armie Hammer was out of his depth when he tweeted this. He just wanted to be contrarian. At least I believe he was just trying to be contrarian. If he really does want to criticize culture and revamp it, I think it's entirely ironic that he's doing it on Twitter, but it's a good platform to express that, and it welcomes criticism, and many people did. So far, there has been no real response to any of this other than the reply I showed. So I'm just gonna read a few tweets off for the end of this video. Valerie says, "I'm a fan of yours, but this comment is incredibly glib and disappointing. People are sharing memories. For some of them, those pictures represent hugely significant moments, ones of joy and acceptance that were gifted to them by Mr. Lee." Adam says, "I feel like we should all post pictures we have of us with Stan Lee and be sure to @Armie Hammer. He thinks that it's an inappropriate way to grieve by remembering the time we got to stand next to greatness." Adrian says, "The next family member of mine who kicks it, I'll be sure to shame any cousin, aunt, or uncle who has the audacity to make it about them with their silly images with the dead person. I mean, who does that? Everyone." And personally, I really like this earnest comment from Taylor. "I thought that people posting pictures of themselves with Stan was great because it showed them how he had an impact on people along with his work. His pictures with fans and coworkers show me how he brought joy to so many people from different walks of life, which I find beautiful." Yeah, me too, Taylor. Me too. And then there's this guy named Jeffrey who says, "Looks like you found a way to use others' ways of mourning and their memories to draw some attention to yourself. You sound like a real asshat." What a comedian. In summation, technology is not inherently bad. People really don't like it when you shit on the way they grieve. It's all right to criticize society and how you view your culture. Just expect criticism in return. This is just a modern eulogy. Like I said before. That's it. It's healthy, and it's 100% all natural human. And I'm making this video because I was a little upset, and I was grieving in my own way. No, Stan Lee and I are not friends. We have never met, but he made my life that much more worth living. There are people who use these tragic things that occur to draw attention to themselves. I do not believe that that is the majority of the people doing that here. To some, it might actually just be like a knee-jerk thing that a very famous person died. So they feel compelled to also share the fact that they know that a famous person died. But we don't know their intent, and it's okay to comment about it. But I'm here to criticize Hammer and people who agree with him that there needs to be a cultural revamp and that this posting a selfie is somehow bad. Like Jeffrey Dean Morgan said, Hammer used other people grieving in their own way to draw attention to himself. That's hypocritical. If you did not like how I grieved for Stan by being upset with Armie Hammer, comment below. This is where the technological determinism rant occurs. Or rather, the rant against technological determinism. I'm going to use a very small scale thing and a very huge scale thing as an example. Back in the day, and by back in the day, up until like 30 years ago, there used to be a elevator attendant. There was literally a guy who would just sit in the elevator and operate it for everyone who used it up and coming down. This used to be extraordinarily common up until the late 60s. Now, today, we would see it as a complete waste of time to have someone stationed at an elevator for 24 hours a day. And often, elevators would just be out of use because some places wouldn't have them for 24 hours. That's insane. You not being able to get downstairs and you're on the 10th floor and you have to walk all the way down. But that's how much people feared this new technology of the elevator. People were like, we need someone, a guardian, a champion of the light, to guide us up and down this death trap. I'm sure it was a serious issue back then. There was like no regulations, and I'm sure lots of people's arms got cut off, and I'll probably include one story about that. So go ahead and pause and read it if you want to. Now it's complete. Like, we don't even think about it. Just use the elevator. It's not a big deal. That's how I view people who think kids on the phones these days, man. It's someone who's afraid of the elevator. It's here. It's incredibly useful. Yeah, someone got their arm chopped off. Some people died. Sometimes people still get trapped in it. Overall, the elevator's great. That's how I feel about the internet and social media. People may use the elevator to go up one floor, and social media can be used that way as well. Now I'm going to use a huge example, and by huge I mean macro, I think, where the entire world was involved with this piece of technology. Nuclear power and weapons. Between the end of World War II until the late 80s, people were in constant fear that the whole world was going to explode from a nuclear explosion. One country would nuke one another, and it would start a chain reaction, and we'd all be dead. That's why we have like this huge slew of like post-apocalyptic, crazy mutant, bizarro stories. And by stories I mean like movies, media, books, everything. But what this technology ended up doing was bringing the entire world together. Nobody ended up nuking anybody, and we all agreed, hey, we shouldn't use this, and we should stop making new ones, and let's call it proliferation and take a really long time to dismantle all these warheads. Ultimately, I think that's a positive thing. How often can the world collectively be like, hey, this is a bad idea, let's not do it? And that was a direct result of this piece of technology. We didn't kill each other. I know that's a really low bar, but it felt really real at the time. Almost everyone thought it was going to happen. We had school children literally hiding under their desks to protect themselves from nuclear explosions. So that's kind of what I was getting at when I felt like Armie Hammer was out of his depth with it. He's just afraid of the elevator and thinking that it's a nuke. It's neither, but I mean, it's a tool and it's similar. So guys, don't be afraid to use the elevator. It's okay. Millions of people are doing it. And I think it helps in the long run. I'm very confident it will. But that's just like my opinion, man.